Hello students. This video is going to give you an overview of Marxist theory, which are the economic and political theories based on the ideas of Karl Marx. It's really important that we separate out the attempts to enact Marxism that happened in the world politically. So for example, the USSR or Cuba, their attempts at a communist government is not the same as what Karl Marx is talking about and not really what we're studying here. Instead, we're talking about the different ideas that he put forward along with other thinkers who were in the same vein and kind of followed his ideas. So you don't have to be a fan of the USSR to understand this theory and to be able to use it successfully. We're going to talk about three main topics within Marxist theory. The first is the economy as the basis for all other social structures. The second is the use of ideology as a tool of oppression, and the last is capitalism as an oppressive system. So let's get to the first one. To Marxists, the economy is the basis for all other social structures. So they look at the system of production and gain and loss of wealth and labor as the thing that becomes the basis for all other institutions we have in our society. Things like government, medicine, religion, media, education, all of those things grow on top of the economy and are oftentimes modeled after the economy. Similarly to Marxists, the most important identification marker a person can have is their class. Right? They look at the difference between the haves and the have-nots. So for them, that's the most telling way you can tell what kind of person someone is, what kind of experiences they have, what sort of ideas they can have, is their social class. So I wanted to give an example of Marxism at talking about the economy as the basis for other institutions. And that's one of education. So when the Industrial Revolution was going really strong, that was where we got a lot of the basis for our education system today. For example, in high school, you probably changed classes based on the ringing of a bell, or at least that was the experience I had when I was in high school. That's based on the same system that a factory would use to indicate to workers that it was time to take a break or time to change shifts. They would use a bell and that would indicate that people needed to move. So that kind of process of education, of using those signals for students, was built on an economic system of factories. There are other things that make schools kind of factory-like. Like here you'll see they're dropping tests inside the school. So the idea that we can kind of standardize things, right? There's a standard test and everyone's expected to pass it. Or that everyone kind of goes in differently. They're different raw materials, but they come out the same. The product is the same. So for a system that uses capitalism and one that uses manufacturing, thinking about schools as factories kind of makes sense. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing either. But it makes sense that education and the economy sort of match each other. So here's a few things that Marxists would do with that idea that the economy is the basis for all other social systems. They would pay attention to the material conditions surrounding people's lives and their attitudes towards those conditions. So material conditions are the physical way we live, right? What we're living in, the stuff we have, the resources we have access to, the kinds of connections we have. It's like the real world stuff. And so a Marxist would look at the real world stuff surrounding people and how people think about those things. A Marxist would also study the way the economic system impacts other institutions, so government, education, religion, medicine. A Marxist might look at the system of capitalism and say, okay, if we're capitalists, what does that mean for our government? What does that mean for our medicine? Right? We have a system where not everyone has health insurance, and the state doesn't cover our health insurance. We have to pay for it, and many hospitals use a business model that's all sort of based in capitalism, and other countries that aren't as capitalist have different systems of medicine than we do. A Marxist would also recognize that a person's social class impacts their worldview. It says something about their values, the way they see the world around them. Um, some Marxists would even argue it can impact the kinds of ideas that people can have because their view is so skewed within their class, right? The structure that they are in. And that's why I included this picture here. It is of Lucille Bluth, who was a character on Arrested Development, which was about an extremely wealthy family. Um, and the quote at the bottom says, I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10? Um, and I think we know that that's a really high price for a banana, right? That's not what a banana would actually cost. But because she is so wealthy and so removed from real world um, decisions and activities like going to the grocery store and buying a banana, she just has no idea what they would cost. A Marxist would also analyze the system of social class stratification and class conflict. So they would look at the different social classes within a society and how those classes conflict with one another. They have differing worldviews, they have differing interests and needs. And so for a Marxist, class conflict is basically inevitable, right? The different social classes are always going to be in conflict with one another because they need and value different things. A Marxist also examines the distribution of economic power. They would probably tell you to follow the money if you're trying to look for the person who is powerful, right? That kind of the idea that someone who is wealthy can also wield political power and have influence in a number of other arenas. And then a Marxist would also attempt to effect positive social change by revealing class conflict. So it's one of the philosophies and one of the critical theories that attempts to have a real world impact. They're trying to show us what class conflict looks like in an effort to kind of break it down so that we can change our class system and not go through this kind of grinder anymore. This is a little information about class stratification. So when Marx originally wrote in mid-19th century in Europe, it made sense to use these original categories of aristocracy, bourgeoisie, and proletariat. So aristocracy was basically the old money. They were people who had had land for a long time. They had titles like king, queen, count, earl, duke, duchess. Um, they may have held their land for hundreds of years. And in some cases, they were considered like they had the divine right to lead, right? That the king was sort of ordained by a god to have control over the country. But in Marx's time, the bourgeoisie was also very much up and coming. So these are the people who own businesses, right? Who own the factories and employ other workers. So this is kind of the new money, right? The up and coming class at his time. And then the proletariat are the workers themselves, who in Marx's times were the group that was oppressed, right? They were the ones who were doing the labor to keep the bourgeoisie and the aristocracy in wealth. Now, those categories may have worked for Marx's time, but the 21st century United States, our categories are a little different, and you can see we have more of them. So we have the folks that are extremely wealthy, or you may have heard them called the billionaire class. After that, you have the upper class, or the folks who are well-to-do. These are the people who own more than one home, not because they're using one to rent and get additional income or use as an Airbnb, but because they have a summer home somewhere else and they can afford to just leave it empty the rest of the year. After that, you have the middle class. This group is financially established, but they are not likely to be buying second homes. They may probably don't own a yacht. They probably have just enough cars for the number of drivers in the house, as opposed to kind of a garage full of exotic cars. After that is the lower class, and this group is the one that lives in poverty. So if they have a few bad months, they might end up evicted from their apartment, for example. Right? They're the ones that are really kind of living on the edge between maintaining a safe and secure home and food and clothes, and not. And then the last is the underclass, which is the group that is destitute. They're the ones who do not have homes, right? They may be living in shelters or on the street. They really don't have anything kind of to their name except for sort of belongings they can hold. So this is kind of our class stratification that we're working with now.